Assalamu alaikum, family and friends of Cube Editor. Welcome to live chat number 41. For those of us who are in Karachi, you know that there is a heavy rainstorm happening outside. In fact, just behind the screen outside my windows, it's been raining for off and on for about 5 hours. The city is going to be flooded, as we all know, and it's a whole other kind of urban wilderness that is going to be happening in the city and over the next few weeks, while the streets flood, homes flood, and all sorts of urban disaster takes place. So I thought this would be an appropriate book to be looking at for today. I don't know how many of you recognize this book or have seen it before or own it. It's a book called Urban Wilderness, and I certainly feel like there's an urban wilderness that we're living in Karachi these days, a city of 20 million people, for those who don't know. Same footprint as LA, same kinds of issues as the other 20 megacities of the world. So nothing new, but certainly a case of greed, corruption, incompetence in terms of administration, and of course a fundamentally flawed system of governance. So yes, Gia, you are also in the same position in Mumbai. Exactly, Mumbai is one of those cities that suffers just like we do. Every monsoon, every year, and yet there seems to be not only no respite but also no solution, which I don't really understand. So we're going to have an interesting conversation today with Kimberley Tate, who is described as an embodied truth seeker and future ancestor. So these are all very heavy, powerful terms for very sensitive and profound statements, experiences. I'm really looking forward to having her aboard. I'm just waiting for her to sign on, and then we will hand over the mic, so to speak, to her. It should be pretty fantastic because we want to be able to extend our bandwidth in this conversation to go from one extreme to the other. Jean, welcome on board. Salam, Jean Gardner. Does this book look familiar to you? Look what I found. And while she signs up, for anybody who can read this, Saira, good to see you after a long time. Who can read that backwards? Other than the date, which is 1993, it says, "To Zen, enjoy the pleasures of New York City, May 21st, 1993. Jean, this was your little surprise for you for today. I dug this up because I'm certainly feeling like I live in an urban wilderness. The way Karachi is collapsing and the way it's being torn apart, it would be fantastic to hand over all of its runnings to nature and let nature turn it into an urban wilderness, which in its many, many primitive senses would probably be hugely better for the city than what it's suffering right now." So I thought this would be a wonderful surprise for all of you. This is a book that Jean has written, and I'm not sure if it's published or not, but this is one of my treasured library gems that I dug up today because I was looking out my windows and seeing the state that Karachi is in, watching the videos being uploaded on social media, and just heartbreaking. 48 hours have been human incompetence worldwide, disasters, many lives, innocent lives lost. And it really makes one wonder where we're at. So if this book is still being published, for those who can get their hands on it, please do. Kimberley is here. We're going to bring her on board. So lovely to see her. Where are you, Kimberley, on this list? Here we go. Hola. Salam, Kimberley. Where are you? Join us. Let's try that again. That was my error. Requests, yes. Let's try that once more. Kimberly, I've just sent you a request. Accept it and please join us. There you are.
Hello.
Hi there. How
Hi.
are you?
It's working.
It is working. It does
Okay.
work. It does work. It does work. Believe it or not, it works. So, how
Well,
are you doing
nice.
today? Are you suffering monsoons or no? Are we the only ones getting washed out by heavenly waters that are polluted with acid rain?
Well, I am in the middle of Missouri, in the middle of the United States right now. I'm in Missouri, and it's sunny outside my window.
Beautiful
Um,
sun. Beautiful, beautiful sun.
Grateful for the sun today. I
Yes.
know it's been a lot of storms in where I normally live in Brooklyn, so yeah, grateful to have shelter.
Absolutely. So Jean and I have been sharing the storms because it's been raining where she is, and it's also been raining and thundering. You may even hear it in the background as through the course of this conversation. But power outages in New York. That's Syra who's giving us a quick update from Manhattan. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for following the work that we've been doing, following the live chats. I'm assuming you've also therefore had a chance to look at all the other content that's on there. And I will never forget something you said in your previous, one of the earlier comments where you talked about othering, othering a whole group of people. And that was so beautifully put. Thank you so much for that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, please. I think there's going to be a lot of curious people wanting to know what your title means.
Yeah, well,
Already have
thank
questions. And I said, wait, let her tell you herself. What do I
well, it's those are words that have come slowly through my meandering of figuring out what it is that um, kind of the work that I am to be doing in this lifetime. And those words feel most resonant. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank a dear mentor to me, Jean, who you've been in conversation with, and why I enjoyed tuning in, and why I feel like I have so much to say, because Jean is a kindred spirit, and I've had the pleasure of teaching with her and engaging in conversation with her. I feel like she is someone who really listens and resonates with me. Um,
It does listen,
so
but
I
for some of us, and I mean this in the most positive of ways. Like for me, she's a very bad influence in my life because she makes me do all the risky thoughts and all the dangerous writing and all the reading that nobody else allowed. She encourages it. She's go do it. So if there's even an iota of revolutionary in me, it's because of her. She's
she's
watching and listening
definitely
too.
she's a trickster, and I love
She's
that
a
so much about
trickster.
her.
Yes. For all of us.
Yeah. So my background is in architecture. Um, so I worked in the field for some time, and then I came into teaching. I teach design at Parsons, the new school. I also teach at the Center for Architecture. I have also, in my lifetime, had a rich practice in movement activities and sports. And when I was going through grad school and to the end, just trying to understand how is it that people are supposed to be talking about space and architecture. There's a kind of, you have to like, code we come into, and I felt that it required it requires a certain kind of thinking to participate in, the very detail, the technicalities, um, and for me, it left out other knowledge that I had that I only recognized could be reintegrated when I started a um, design build project where I was learning, it had physical experience of, design like manifesting the idea through physical reality when you're actually building something with your own body and your hands. That there is a way to think when you're just drawing on a piece of paper or zooming in and out of model space. Um, and it can be very freeing to do that, but when you are in physical reality, you recognize the weight and mass of things, and that when you are built like lifting heavy objects and you're like screwing things in with your body. And I'm so happy that some of my cohorts that built this house with me are on here. That there's a way that your body needs to participate in thinking and making what you've designed. And it's not only about how smart you are up here, but it's about how smart you are throughout your whole body by leveraging. Where do you position yourself to leverage, when you're lifting something up? And it is like dynamic physics with the material, the thing you're making, and your body. And that was just so fundamentally paradigm shifting for me. And I was seeing how my practices in dance and martial arts were coming in with the design work. And I have to say that the other practices that I have been engaging with and that I teach from are about bringing other things that we know, like what does our heart know, what does our gut know, what do our bones know, and how can those things inform the work that we make in the world. So the embodied truth seeking is in making.
We've just lost a little bit of the internet, not able to. It's just got stuck. Well, let's hope she's going to sign back in again so we can try this. That's a good call. I think a good decision to have made. So I'm just waiting for Kimberly to sign back because something went wrong. Also, if any of you, while you're here, have any questions, please do throw them out for Kimberly to answer. That's perfectly fine. We want engagement and communication between everyone. So participation is always highly encouraged. I wonder where she's gone. So I thought the internet would be awkward and wishy-washy at my end because the weather is so bad outside. It's been raining. It's 10 o'clock. It started raining at 3 and well, more than 5 hours, 7 hours now. Heavy rain. Wonder where she's gone. Let's try this again. Yes, Kimberly is back. Fantastic. Let's have her reconnect.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I have the thunderstorm of poor technology on my side.
That's all right. That's all right. These things happen. We've gotten used to it. I was just saying to the rest of the group who's here that I thought my internet would be really spindly today because the weather here is so bad. I can see the thunder and lightning out the window, but who knows what happened. That's okay. We roll with the punches. It's all right. All good. So you and I actually have that in common because I'm trained as an architect and I worked with a builder for about 2 years in 2002 and 3. And exactly as you said, it just brought everything into perspective and made the connection between imagination, vision, drawing, and actually building that, watching that thing construct out of the earth was quite fantastic. So I can completely relate to that. But if I go back to my original nagging question, people want to know, what does embodied mean? What does resonance mean? What is a truth seeker?
Hmm.
Three questions.
What does embodied mean? So the body is a living, also thinking and knowing entity that in in prioritizing Western culture, the mind body split, where we are taught that the mind is what's important, what
True.
we need to prioritize. And we sit in classrooms all our life coming up,
Mm.
um, controlling the body so that we can do our mental work. And that requires a severance, a separation of this knowledge and wisdom. Um, so, what does it mean to be embodied? This physical, container of consciousness is the primary place, it's a primary instrument through which we engage with the world, where we are in relationship with others and we are experimenting and exploring our existence. So we cannot forget this.
Yeah, and we do. And that's, interesting, Kimberly. That's what we're trained to do, exactly what you said. And, education systems that you've been through, I've been through, Jean has been, this is our Pavlovian training to do exactly the opposite of what you've just described. And what you've just described is exactly what we're here today to talk about reviving, to re-imbuing, to bringing it back into mainstream thought, and to get a new generation who's so disconnected between these two, to get them to join the two, understand that they are the same, and that consciousness that lives in all of it doesn't just live in this little skull here, it's the whole thing. And how one
Mhm.
experiences, explores, like you said, discovers between the self and everything outside of it. So that's why we're here. I mean, we're here to talk about it, get the word out there, get people to start understanding it. And these are words that those of us who are already beginning to live life in this vocabulary, we see these and we hear these words and they make sense to us. They have an architectural form to them. But for most others, the word embodied is not so easy to understand. And that's why I'm asking you, is to help the others who are here, and others who are here who are like this young man who has joined us today. Last week we had a different brother. Today we have a different brother. So the other question was truth seeker. What is a truth seeker? Are we all truth seekers?
Actively, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Maybe, well, let's see. Subconsciously, I would say that we always make choices that are to
Uh-oh, we're losing the line again. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. Come back. Come back quickly. Don't disconnect. Oh no. Kimberly, you want to disconnect and try again? I'm not sure what's happening. Sign. Really bad connection today. Yeah. She's had to try again. Let's hope that we haven't lost the train of thought. She's back. Yes. And yes.
um, trickster technology maybe doesn't like these questions.
So, of course, it doesn't like these questions because these questions are going to pull out the rug from underneath trickster technology. So, I mean, these are questions that will take us back to your other statement about ancestry and the ancient and that wisdom. So, I mean, I think it's if the technology is listening to us and finding this objectionable, then you're saying exactly the right things.
Um, Shall I continue answering your previous question
Please.
about are we all truth seekers?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all seeking something. Um, Somehow we've bought into, many of us have bought into narratives of like not yet being who we are, um, or needing to achieve or chase something that is beyond ourselves because that other thing is better, that other knowledge is better, that other color of person is better,
Mm.
you know? Um, so the seeking is designed in, and I think also inherent, that we are seeking to reconnect to our truth. And what is that truth is something I believe that there's like cosmic truth and then also relative truth. And what I use to measure that is I really have to drop my awareness away from the anxiety of my mind down below my neck and sit into the vibrations of my heart and in my gut. And I can feel from the inside the felt sense, the interoception. Like, Jean may already shared, there's more than five senses, right? There's like all these senses that our body has from the inside to regulate itself, like how we know where down is and where up is, how do we know when we're hungry, and I can feel when my heart constricts or when my gut constricts, with that restriction and contraction, um, as protective mechanisms that may seem like no, that's not appropriate for me, or that doesn't resonate with me right now, versus other things in my life where my gut feels more relaxed, my heart feels open, or like when I'm in the middle of a drawing and I can feel through the process, like my breath feels fuller and I feel more relaxed. My body knows before my mind knows
Always.
what the truth. Yeah.
So, it's funny because the truth idea, uh, for many arguments is subjective because, like you said, people are all searching for something. So one person's truth may be unique to the other and therefore different, but all these different truths are what we bring together. And there are no universal truths according to some. So it's so interesting because, what you're suggesting, I try this. My experiment is this project of the edutors, where I take a group of people to ancient heritage sites and see what they discover, what they explore, and what kind of truth from that particular building's lost history may reveal itself to them, not so much entirely about the building, but through the language of the building, really about themselves and about the kinds of things that you're talking about. If I can like shake them into saying, can you please listen from your gut and shut your brain off and open your gut heart and let the pores on your skin watch, let the pores on your skin absorb and listen. So we just disconnect this completely for that point in time and say, do your entire experience from somewhere else. But when do
Mhm.
you where so my question for you is, how would you feel at a heritage site, or when were you at one last? Can you remember how it felt at some really ancient
Um,
site? Have you been any place recently that you might remember?
um, I love that you are doing these tours and you're inviting people in to experience them from their whole bodies. And the mind and can get in the way, right? Because
Yeah.
somehow we're taught that we need to know an answer, and even if we
Yeah.
have a question, just to let the question like float and be in the atmosphere of it is such
Yeah.
a wonderful gift. And um, last time I was home in the Philippines, it was 2 years ago. It's my work right now is to, through my body, reconnect to my heritage Every
Wow.
time I go home to the Philippines, I was born there and I grew up here in the United States. And gratefully, I have some family around me. But I wanted to know more about the source, the land, like the culture that is rooted and integral from the earth there. And so I went there. Um, and there was a moment I was in the town where my grandmother still lives and works. She grew up there also. She's in her late 80s. She's still like the working town physician. You know, she's a veteran of the town, a community organizer. Um, and to be there like and know that generations of my family have been there is different from me growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, and we don't really have those roots, So just to remember that there is a place where I have roots, my family has roots, and I was invited to go up into the mountain. So this town is the base of a mountain. So in terms of heritage sites, I would say that this mountain was my heritage site. Um, and and to rest in the sensations that I experienced going up the mountain, my feet on the earth, breathing in the combination of humidity and the the plant, like the smell of the earth. Um, Breathing that into my body, I felt the cells in my body bloom. Like there was this, like, such a relief. It really felt like a homecoming. Yeah.
Does this happen every time you go back, or is there a new sensation?
Well, this was the first time I came back home with this question. They're talking about like, you know, allowing oneself to sit in sit in the atmosphere of a question. Um, yeah, this was the first time. So it is my hope that after the pandemic, I can go back and spend a significant amount of time there. Um, Bring my partner and my young child. I have a 6 month old.
Yes.
You know. So also the work that I'm doing is for him, for my child, because my I don't want us to be homogenized, right? To not be erased and assimilated. We need to have a sense of who we are really. And for him to know that, I need to know it for myself to pass it on. Like I need to embody it before I can transmit it. And that's the same way with teaching, right? You have to teach from what you know. You have to
Yeah.
teach what you have integrated and embodied before you pass it on to other people. Um,
So, how you obviously have a highly sensitive response to heritage, to a natural site, a mountain. And if I ask somebody else the same question I'm going to ask you now, I will obviously get a different response. But I'm going to ask you because I think your response is going to have a different level of value for me. That what, how would you describe your roots? What are your roots in that sense?
that's a good question. It's a question also that's been rich for me during this pandemic
Yeah.
because I had this episode um, where I needed to reflect on my root in my body. I just had a baby, right? So like that's
Yeah.
part of in my body where my root is, and in the healing, it involved me also being in the bath a lot, and supported by some other sisters. I was invited to use mantra, bija mantra, lam
Yep.
of the root, and that the vibration of my voice through my body really helped me mend my root in the water, and also in meditation, because I have my contemplative practice is very important to me. Also engaging in that, in contemplative visualization, resting in the root space and reflecting on that in the water. And in the time of the pandemic, it's like this shifting sand. A lot of issues around security, housing, and food are happening right now. And when I reflect on uh, my my ancestors from in the Philippines, in the
Mm,
eastern Visayas of the Philippines, we were seafarers, so like, what
right.
does it mean to root in water was the other question that came to me. Um, yeah, what does it mean to not root in land, but be able to root in a flow?
So cultural roots are not necessarily fixed to a type of lifestyle. They're fixed to a bioregion. And if your bioregion meant you were seafarers, then so be it. My bioregion means that my genetic construct was developed around the fertile lands on either side of a river. And there was an ocean at one end and mountains at the other end. So different relationship, but not completely disconnected to the ocean either. So cultural roots are different. I mean, what would you say are your cultural roots? And I'm curious to know not what the books have told us about the cultural roots of the Philippines. I'm curious to know that since you've gone back after so much time and you have a desire to go back again, what do you feel was the hook for your cultural roots of your ancestors?
I'm gonna let my uncle was sitting with me. I'm gonna let him pass. That's
Sure.
fine. Yeah.
Zip.
Um, my cultural roots right now, uh, the symbol of a coconut tree is a nice way to think about my cultural roots. Um, or even my lineage.
Yes.
Well, my family, I come from a family that owned land in the Philippines. For generations, we've had coconut farms. Something that I'd like to return to and learn more about. Um, these coconut trees and the crops um, resourced my family to get an education, um, and to have the means to come to the United States and build a life here too. So I need to acknowledge that. And so the coconut tree rooted in um, this sandy, moist, tropical earth.
Heavenly paradise like earth. Yes.
Yeah, and then the coconut fruit itself, something that the seed can travel across seas and plant itself somewhere else and take root in another continent. Um,
So you
yeah,
have
I
a
think that's a
have a
nice.
you have a colonial history in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, and there must be heritage architecture that is remnants of and a memoir of the outsiders. Do you have any kind of an emotional feeling towards it, one way or the other? I mean, what sort of architectural heritage response do you have when you go home to that history, other than the natural, the coconuts and the mountains?
There's a Spanish architectural flavor,
Yes.
of course, because the Spaniards were there for 300 more years
Yeah.
and established churches, cathedrals, um, the like homes are very influenced by that. Not the native, the like houses on stilts that are in the
Right,
farmlands. Like
right.
those are
The
more,
indigenous.
you see a lot of those, yeah, indigenous in Southeast Asia. Um, I think growing up, the spirituality transmitted through Roman Catholicism was, I would say, a main touch point of heritage as architecture um, that connect to my roots, my Filipino roots. Um,
Would it have been Buddhist roots before the Roman Catholics arrived?
yeah, I
Jain
believe,
Buddhists?
yeah, Buddhist and Hindu,
In,
because Southeast, the Philippines was connected to the Indian Empire before.
right.
Um, and the language, my family's language from our area of the Philippines, the Visayan language, the the roots are Sanskrit too. Like when you say something is delicious, you say marasa. And I
Marasa.
understand rasa is Sanskrit word that means flavor, right? Or like aesthetic. It's like relates to an aesthetic experience. Um, uh, yeah, Visayan. Also, the word Visayan has Sanskrit roots, and this is something I'm learning now in the recent year in community who's doing this work too, like connecting these dots deeper, deeper beyond the Spanish imposition onto our spirituality. Um, Connecting to the mantra through to asana and plant medicine, um, and so when I hear the affirmation of this and connect it back to practices that I have found in my journey, where like meditation and yoga have been really important to me. I'm chanting more, not necessarily like formal Vedic chanting anymore so much, but even when I'm with my child and I'm trying to soothe my child, I'm like chanting and humming and trying to co-regulate our nervous systems. Yeah, like these are ancient technologies that were in my region even before the Spanish were there. So it feels good to reanimate these teachings
So
and maybe not have come to it from here, but come through it from my body.
the pre-Spaniard ancient history of the Philippines is what your body lineage retains. Everything else is imperialist and colonized. So, in terms of language, when I've seen your language written, it's written in the Latin, the English script. What was its character before? Did it is no? So is it written in an English script? No, or it has the curly ends. I'm forgetting.
There is a
That's
script
why.
called Babayan. Babayan. I think that's how we say it. There's a version. There are different versions of it, as I understand, and yeah, in the Visayan, I think what we're seeing more of now might be from a different region of the Philippines, but yeah, we had a script that was an adaptation from Sanskrit, as I
That's it.
understand.
That's it. I remember. So the funny thing is, I remember noticing this when I was in Kathmandu actually, because I was looking at the Nepalese script, and one of the people in the conference with me was from the Philippines. We were there for an animal rights conference, and when they wrote, and so we had this very little discussion. I couldn't come back and continue that conversation because the conference took us elsewhere. But the script, exactly as you said, was an adaptation, a hybrid of what looked like rooted in Hindi and Sanskrit. It had a sense of the flow of not only Nepalese but also Bengali. And then of course has its own signature look and feel. Very it flows. It's not static, and it doesn't have the separated characters. And I've seen it written. I've seen it when I lived in Dubai. I've seen it written in just an English form as well, just phonetics. But that would be something that your son would probably be worth connecting to, is the ancient script, the original.
Yeah, I agree. Also in the writing of it, right? Like, I think
Yeah,
that the codification of
yeah,
body movement through the script is a way to reconnect to that. Um,
yeah. The calligraphic movements, like the building that you said, your entire body becomes part of it, and you understand the alignment and the geometry of so much about the people and their spirituality by understanding the flow of the script and how it comes through and how the sounds are connected to its flourishes, its movements internally. That would be really fun. It's so interesting. You don't have any kind of a huge personal response to the Spanish architecture that's left behind. And was it a hybrid, or it really looks like it's come out of Spain, out of the Catholic history? Did
I
they do
didn't
anything?
really look. I mean, it adapted to the tropical climate.
Right,
There's more open. There's more, um, screening. I'm just reflecting on the ones that I have seen, like in my grandmother's town,
right.
um, and and then in Manila. Yeah, I mean, it, just like the fashion too, like traditional Filipino fashion was just very um, of the aristocratic classes, very very Spanish. Like
Wow.
I feel bad. I feel bad because there's like so many layers and it's just hot there. Like why would you want to wear all of these layers? But that's yeah, that's the adaptation.
So the
Um,
layers of a what? Is it all in silk, or is it cotton layers? What is the material?
I think, pineapple fiber. So they were native fibers too. Pineapple, abacus is banana, um, but and then embroidered, like very very fancy embroidery. Um, I mean, even the music, other cultural expressions that are thought of as traditionally Filipino have so much Spanish flavor. I'm not surprised that it took me so long to really connect to what was deeper than that, right? The Hindu practices or the Buddhist, because there are my I've learned through my community, um, like amulets and figurines too that were hidden in my region that can testify to the existence of pre Spanish colonial spirituality connected to the Indian Empire.
That's amazing. So even connected to the Indian Empire would have been another form of colonial history. So we have to actually go further back before the Indians even arrived and look at what the true classical music, for instance, would have been. And I mean, you've basically hit the nail on the head that these colonial empires have made such a huge effort to make sure that our indigenous souls just remain as disconnected to their earth, to their land, to their own history as much as possible, that when you start to join the dots, it's a really difficult process because they've just wiped everything out in between. And I mean, have you heard any, like, for instance, Chinese opera? Chinese opera is very difficult on the ears. So are the no plays or the kabuki plays. You listen to the sound, but certainly doesn't look or sound like anything Western when you find it, when you extract it from the Japanese. So do you have, I mean, you must do, um, access to or experience of any truly classical Filipino music pre-Spaniards and maybe even pre-Indian, truly
You know,
ancient?
it's so tricky to
Mm.
keep drilling down in this
Yeah,
way.
Yeah.
Because I think that even like the search for authenticity and origin and like deep roots is part of a colonial frame that might value that more than the syncretic blend that we
Right.
are. We are palimpsests,
Yes.
layers and layers and layers, and I mean even the Spanish, the adaptation of Spanish, the adaptation of Sanskrit, those were naturalized with the pineapple fibers, the coconut leaves and weaving that are native to the region, um, and yeah, deeper and deeper than that, I guess. And one reason why I want to connect so much with the earth there is to listen with my whole body and my cells for what that truth is. The truth that I won't be able to find in the books. Um, the truth that I won't even I have a hard time finding from stories when I ask my grandparents, because they're speaking from their um, their frames, from their lenses. So I'm in a process to like somatically, physically reconnect to my the earth the earth wisdom, like direct from there. And that's something I feel can be when we go anywhere, when on us coconut when we sail across the ocean and plant ourselves in another place, um, and how we are in relationship to that land where we've planted, that is a kind of truth of process, um, to that we can draw wisdom from.
Yeah, but that's so beautiful. That earth that you're itching to go back to and listen to and connect with, that earth has footprints of all these people that you're saying we're now a blend of. So even then, even from the earth, you will get a hybrid adaptation version and not
Yes.
really a pure response to what was here, because those layers have either gone or they've got mixed or they've just got so many other footprints on it that the sounds are not clear anymore. That'll all be this sort of like white
Yeah,
noise.
we're remixed, right? We're remixed, and at the same time, the essence remains.
Right. So what is that essence?
If you want to go deeper than culture, deeper than earth, um,
Yes. No, I'm just saying, because we've
back
been now
to
in the
back to
context of all of these people, and we've accepted that going deeper is my colonial history that's been obviously pumped into me, that wants this linear structure and going back. And, what one is curious about origin and wants to shed the layers of colonialism, of course, for sure. That's
yeah.
all of what my work is about. But then, behind all of these layers and all of this noise, how does one extract the essence? You can't just, I guess, maybe you can. In my mind, I think that you can't just ignore all of these influences and find an essence by saying, I'm only going to look at the earth and not the footprints on top of it. So there's got to be some influence, no? Don't you think?
I believe we need to um, dissolve our fixation on objects and objectivity, and rest in process and rest in the question. That
Right.
essence can be found in that, even in the process, in our relationships of becoming and relating with each other. And because even things like resilience, it's not just one thing, one person. It's you, how you are in relationship, like in your community, in our constellation, like how we are connected to our ecology. um so truth, essence is not contained by a single entity.
The
it's
journey,
it's
yes, it's a process.
diffused.
Yes.
Yes, it's diffused. It's relational, and maybe that's why we need so many practices and so many experiences to as touch points to keep reflecting back to us. This is you, or this is a part of you. This is you, but not only you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the process. It's all about the journey. You're absolutely right. There's no fixed material, tangible object. There's no moment. There's no destination. Of course, that's the most beautiful part of this whole thing. Is it's the essence comes out of different points of reflection through the journey, through the process, for sure. So, what in all of this is resonance? What is resonance? Is it like an echo?
This was something that I explored with Jean, teaching a body, mind, nature class with her. Um, we did an exercise, like a contemplative exercise, where students were invited to soften, visual fixation, and rest in the breath. And I brought out a singing bowl, um, and played the singing bowl in the space. And if we allow ourselves to settle, like let the nervous system rest a little bit, undeniably there is some stirring that can happen when you listen to, you're bathed in the vibration of this, these singing bowls or other sound, sound healing. People are doing a lot of that, sound baths. Um, so there is something on the outside that's vibrating, and then we feel it on the inside. Like what is on the outside um, helps the inside surface and uh, like say, here I am, this is me too, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's us in relationship with something else. It's the inner and the outer. And when we on the outside see something that we feel an opening to, we feel an attraction to, we feel interest in, if we recognize that that also exists within us,
Yes.
like, oh, that's telling me about myself. Like that's a wonderful affirmation.
That's
I think can
that's
also
really beautiful.
also dissolve a kind of like grasping, like, oh, like I need to be that. But no, you already are. You already
Yeah.
are that,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, the resonance when you recognize that there's a similarity, um, the vibration outside of yourself is also in yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
and all those footprints are part of that resonance, not to be ignored. The colonial history, that's all part of the resonance. That's part of the process and the journey. So, not to
Mhm.
be, it's good to be, I guess, unsure of it, but to deny its existence, I think, would be equally unfair. And just to be insular and introverted, I think, would be doing oneself this injustice. So, if we have a few more minutes, Kimberly, if I can ask you one final question, please. I know I've sort of nagged you about all sorts of crazy things. What some two or three people have DM'd me and said, "What is a future ancestor?" I love that.
Well,
I love that. So I just like I know I think I know what it is, but let her say it in her own words.
well, I was asked to give you a title, like, who am I? And I mean, right now I'm a mother because I have a
Yeah,
6 month old, and so much of my
yeah,
energy is going to caring for and nurturing this child and being in relationship with his father. And we're like cultivating, like redesigning our lives, and so to recognize that my efforts in creating this, like my mothering is not just for him, but it's also for his children and his grandchildren. Um, yeah, that the seeds that I'm planting now, I may not reap the benefits of. I am, I acknowledge the blessings of my my grandparents behind me, my great grandparents behind me. Their efforts and their work live through me, and then my work will live through my great grandchildren too. So just to acknowledge that, I think, can help put things in perspective. Um,
That's it. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And the way you said it, there's no way I could replicate that. So, acknowledgement, put into perspective, relationship to land, process, journey, not a fixed entity, no materiality that's relevant. I mean, these are all the things that are so wonderful to hear and so wonderful to know that people are talking about it. And of course, Jean does, and there's others as well. And we're a small community, Kimberly, that I think is growing, but it'd be so beautiful to actually connect these dots, each of us as moving entities out there somewhere, almost like, the little specks in Brownian motion, and to actually create these collisions and these sparks and create these new lives by bringing us together, new processes added to it, add to our layers by knowing each other and sharing these ideas, these thoughts, these experiences. So I hope that one day I can convince you to come to Pakistan, all three of you, and see what you think about so many layers of colonial history and pre-colonial history. I mean, talk about layers and layers and
yes.
layers of
Yeah, I've
crazy,
been
crazy, crazy
enjoying
diversity.
I've been enjoying just perusing the Cube editors, and also, yeah, it's so lovely to reconstellate, and find new ways to be together and continue um, to explore our truths together, seek and experience. And I want to shout out my community that's also here. People that I have taught with, my beloved Akim, Fran, Gigi and Jose and Andrew and Melvin and Sadaf, and like, in conversation with you, my words are they're not only my words. It's a stream of collective consciousness that we're all embodying now. So happy to be in conversation with you too, Zane.
Don't stop. Don't stop. I know that
Well,
that's the longest sentence. Don't stop, please. It's so rare, Kimberly, God bless you. It's so rare to share the energy. Thanks to this pandemic, we always look at the negative side, but thanks to this pandemic, you and I are sharing the screen, sharing the space, sharing this time, this moment in two different time zones, 9, 10 hours apart. We're still sharing all of this right now, right here. And this is
yeah.
tangible enough for me. This is phenomenal enough, experience enough, and memory enough. This will be recorded, and we can come back to this and pick up this conversation whenever you feel like it. It's been a
I
true
hope,
honor. Thank you so
yes.
much.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you for creating this container where we can resonate together.
Yes, yes, we should become that singing bowl together, all of us. We don't
Yeah.
need that bowl and its stick. We can just do this ourselves. So, on that note, I'm going to beg my leave. Um, yes, Umar says, why is pandemic always negative? I agree. Positivity is always also contagious. Umar, you've got it. You've got it absolutely right. Positive pandemic. On that note, bless you all. Thank you so much for your time, for everyone who's joined us. Thank you, Kimberly, once again. Really, from my heart. Thank you. And Khudafiz from Karachi, wet, rainy Karachi. We'll speak again soon. Look after yourselves, everyone. Khudafiz.